What are you wearing?
A Canadian tuxedo.
Canadian.
I'm a hockey player. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
To all you Blues fans, we're bleeding blue with you.
Let's go Blues. Let's go Blues. Let's go Blues.
Blue Note fan report. Hello. Justin will be right with you. Give me a moment. We're having, because we're not doing this the standard studio, doing a different studio. I gotta let him know I'm going to send him a link. I thought he had it, but he didn't. I'll send him the link really quick, and then I will introduce our guest. So everyone, give me just a moment. Sending you a link on Facebook Messenger. So apologize. Give me just 10 seconds to do this, and then I will introduce our guest, and then Justin will come in. I apologize. You know, it never fails. I have a guest on, and we have technical difficulties. The harder I try to not have one, I have it. It's just like, guy, you're going to have technical difficulties. Something's not going to go right. So let me get this out to Justin, Justin, and we will be there. Okay. So now let me welcome my guest, the esteemed, and it's not this Mike Myers, but it's the Mike Myers from STL from STL Sports Central. He is the Blues. Man, my head's messed up. Let me just bring in Mike. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
What's going on, Guy? How are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I apologize about the technical things that happen sometimes. Doesn't matter, man. Every time I set an interview up, something happens. So Justin will be along with us very shortly, and we'll be ready to go and be able to talk to you a lot more about what's going on. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody who's watching, and let them know what you do, where you're from, where they can find you, and all that, and then we'll get into the fun questions.
Yeah, that always sounds good. So, Mike Meyer, I am with, like you had mentioned, STL Sports Central. If you're a fan of St. Louis sports, you're missing out if you are not subscribed here to the folks over at STL Sports Central. We've got, with baseball getting up and started, we've got plenty of good conversation here from Randy Carricker, Mike Claiborne, Brendan Schaefer, amongst, a plethora of just experts that are over there. So be sure to hop on over there. I cover the Blues content here for the page. We do post-game reports. We do anything here like through YouTube. We're just continuing to try and just ramp that up. And then, of course, I've got a Substack covering Blues prospects over at Blue Notes Rising. We just crossed, just crossed about almost a year and a half here of this sucker up and going. And I just crossed here today 500 subscribers. So it's a huge, huge day here for me.
Well, send me that link and I'll subscribe to it, because I'm not. And that's one of the reasons I reached out to you, is the prospect pool is so important. Yeah. And I didn't know this, but my co-host Justin is a big fan of yours and follows you on Twitter pretty heavily. I was looking, I guess this is my number one question, and it doesn't matter what the Blues do in the season, how it plays out. Yeah. Who is the guy that the Blues, it doesn't matter, 1, 2, whatever. This is the guy that they want no matter what. Who is the guy that the Blues, that's number one on the Blues draft board?
Well, I think that you'd be foolish to be able to say, not at least say Gavin McKenna here from that list. I think as good as Ivar Stenberg here has been, you've got the Stenberg connection here with already his brother Otto here within the system. I think that you would be foolish to be able to get the number 1 overall draft pick and not choose a generational talent here like Gavin McKenna. So I think at the tip top, again, without having any inside knowledge or anything to that extent, that is, I firmly believe, their number 1 choice. And they're just going to continue to be able to cross down. But Ivar Stenberg here is certainly not, a small consolation prize here if the Blues were to somehow have, the hockey gods and the draft lottery gods bless them with the number 2 overall pick.
I got a question with that, and Justin's here, and Justin, I'll let Justin introduce himself here in a second to you. I look at McKenna, I go, and I'm sorry, I mean, maybe I'm the weird one. Does McKenna fit this lineup? When you have a guy like Connor McDavid, and you have a guy like Bedard, when you have a guy like Celebrini, the teams they go to don't have anybody. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't have that talent. These guys go in there and they're the number 1 talent right away. McKenna comes to the Blues. He's not the number 1 talent right away, not even close. Like, I would put him 7th or 8th if he went to the Blues right now. So maybe bringing a guy like McKenna in isn't the best option. Am I nuts here?
So that's where so Gavin McKenna is absolutely, I mean, he's dominated here in the Canadian juniors, putting up world records at that pace, goes over to the NCAA. He struggles a little bit here out of the gate, but then he just lights the world on fire. My only hesitancy here regarding Gavin McKenna is simply just his size. He's not tall. He's I believe he's either just under 6 foot or just right at 6 foot, and about 175 pounds soaking wet. So this is a guy who's going to absolutely need to be able to gain some weight, but at 18 years old, he's got all the time in the world to be able to just continue to grow and mature. But to your point, I think that honestly, if Gavin McKenna were to be fortunate enough to be able to come here to the Blues or, wherever he's going to go to, let's say it is the Blues here in this situation, Gavin McKenna immediately becomes a top 3 forward here already, in my opinion, here to this team. I mean, his vision, what he can do with the puck, this is a otherworldly talent that the Blues would be getting. I know that there's a lot of already, high floor players on this team. You talk about a Dylan Holloway, a Jimmy Snuggerud, a Dalibor Dvorsky. These guys have already played this NHL time. They've already been established here in the AHL here as well. Gavin McKenna is a guy who's going to come in and I believe just start lighting the world here on fire. Very similar to what a Celebrini, very similar to what a Connor Bedard did here his rookie season.
Yeah, I still my concern is, and like I said, you say he would be top 3. I don't think so. I think there's 6 or 7 guys that are better than him right off the bat. I mean, and I'll go. Robert Thomas, I think, is better than him. I mean, again, he's 18.
Sure.
Okay, I get that, right?
Sure.
But he's not coming into a situation where he's the top talent on the team like Celebrini did, like McDavid did, like Bedard did. He's not even close to being the top talent on the team, in my opinion. So that's why, like, for me, I look at Stenberg, because he's a year away, maybe 2. If I got the number 1 draft pick, I'd look at trading down a little bit to get or working to make sure I got Stenberg instead. Am I nuts?
No, and that's depending, because again, like if you trade down, draft boards are all over the place. For a little while it was the uncontested McKenna, and that's it. Then you had Stenberg here at the top. Then you see some other ones where you got Stenberg here falling to number 4 or 5. So it just depends on how these picks are going to end up landing. Who's going to be at number 3, who's going to be at number 4, because some of these guys may not need a center. Some of them may not need a winger. Some of them say, hey, you know what? We've got Chase Reed. We've got Keaton Verhoff, who's going to be available here for us. And so we're willing to take a gamble and be able to go with a defenseman here with our first round pick. And so, the Blues are going to end up having 3 first round draft picks here coming up, but to be able to pass up on a guy here again, like a Gavin McKenna, I think he's got a much higher of a ceiling long term, and again, he doesn't have to be the guy right away. And that's going to be the benefit to getting a guy, let's say again, like he does come to the Blues. If it's Ivar Stenberg, these guys don't have to be the premier guy right away. They're going to have the attention here set upon them and have that pressure be, hey, this is the first overall draft pick or, wherever that they're at. But these are generational talent type players. And I think that they're going to be able to live up to those standards where you're looking at least a 50-point player here to start the season and maybe even a little bit more, but at the type of career that you could be able to see from a Gavin McKenna here year in and year out, I think you're easily talking about a 90+ point floor minimum here for these type of players.
Got it. So, hey, let me introduce my co-host. Sorry about the confusion there, Justin. This is Justin Scott. Justin, meet Mike Justin. I know you're a huge fan of him. Floor's open to you, boss man.
How you doing, Mike? It's good to have you on the show, man. Sorry I was a little late. I was trying to figure this out. I couldn't get in here, but it's good to have you on the show, man. I see a lot of your stuff on Twitter there or X, whatever you want to call it. I love it. You put out some good stuff. I see you get a lot of slack on there sometimes, but it's always fun to see the stuff you post on there because I think you post some valuable stuff related to the Blues prospects and what we're going to be expecting for this team for the future.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Justin. I'll have a piece actually coming out. If it's not out tonight, it's going to be pretty much first thing here in the morning. We had the benefit of talking to Felix Trudeau, the college free agent that they drafted, that they signed here just about a week or so here ago. We had the pleasure to be able to talk to him here today, get to know just a little bit more here about him for about 10, 15 minutes before he had to be able to boot, scoot, and boogie on over here to something else. But, great kid. And I'm looking forward to be able to get this piece out here for people will just start learning more and more about these prospects that they're either signing or in the system and that they are going to be introduced here to the Blues core here just within the next couple of years.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to let all our fans know that tonight we are kind of doing the show a little bit differently. I only have Mike for an hour. He told me I can give you an hour. That's it. So me and Justin will go beyond the hour, if when Mike's got to go. So if you've got questions, get them in now and we'll try and get them to him. But if I miss it, I apologize. I'm going to do the best I can. I was looking back at the Blues going back to 2008, I think 8, the year before we got, or the year after we got Alex Pietrangelo, which I think was, I'm not completely right, but I think it was Armstrong's first year. And I looked at those picks. That was 17 first-round picks. Now, a few years we didn't have, but in a few years we had more than one. Of those 17 first-round picks, 3 misses, right? 3 misses so far. Bulk, there was Buck, there was Costin, and then there was one more that I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I was just looking at it too. The Blues have done well, but then I look at what was their average spot they picked. The average spot they picked is 21. And to me, that's their wheelhouse, that 18 to 24, 25 area. Yeah. And we're probably going to have one pick, certainly in that era. We're going to have one much higher, and then we're going to have one a little lower. We're going to have either from the 28th to the 31st, 32nd pick.
It's that the Detroit pick is going to be interesting because if Detroit flops and misses the playoffs, that thing is unprotected. So that Detroit pick is going to be interesting. That's the most interesting one. Honestly, we talked about this on the show, Mike, for the longest time. That me and Guy, we're not really on the tank wagon, as we call it. It's just not something that we really like to see, and I get that it makes your team better, maybe in the future. I know that I've seen that thrown out there a bit, but me and Guy are kind of the assumption that this team is really not that far off. They're kind of showing it with this new culture. The new guard is kind of coming in, and the old guard is kind of changing. We traded Falk, we traded Shin, and the team's playing good. It's not like that. I thought that those guys were the problem. It's just, it's just a cycle of hockey. Those guys were getting older. They wanted to play playoff hockey. You need a new culture. You need a new era, and this is a new era in Blues hockey. And I think that this team is not far off. And if you get you're getting three first round picks. I really don't care what those are. I know the Colorado pick's going to be like probably 32nd. Yeah, it's going to be very, very low. But still, you're getting 3 first round picks. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It does. So to me, it doesn't really matter. And I know that this may frustrate you maybe with my take on it, but I know you guys are talking about Gavin McKenna. I'm sorry. I'm just of the belief that even if the Blues had the Vancouver Canucks chances at getting the first round pick, they're just not going to get it. I'm sorry. I'm not optimistic. So I don't see them getting the first overall pick. I don't know who it's going to go to, but I just don't see the Blues getting that first overall pick.
More than likely, it's going to be Vancouver. I've pretty much accepted that the Blues are not going to be drafting within the top 3. And honestly, like I was mentioning, usually these top round picks, these guys are going to teams who absolutely need these players. And yes, again, St. Louis could absolutely need and find a spot for a Gavin McKenna. They can find a spot for an Ivar Stenberg. They can find spots here for these top round talent. But, like you had mentioned, they've been drafting here within roughly like that 18 to 24 overall spot. And they've been able to draft guys like a Zachary Bolduc. They've been able to draft guys, like an Adam Jiricek or Robert Thomas here, obviously. These guys are top line producing players. Zachary Bolduc is still kind of up in the air as far as, what he's going to end up being here long term. But, they're able to find this talent and say, guys, look, here's these players that we can be able to help grow and draft and develop and just churn out to just be these, even if they're middle 6, I mean, these guys are putting up 15, 20, 25 goals here each and every single season. So, whether it's a benefit here of the culture or, I mean, a huge tip of the cap here to their scouting department to identify these guys who say, look, these guys are falling and we've absolutely got to be able to grab them here right now. So, no, I don't think that they're going to be getting a Gavin McKenna too much as what people are hoping here for, but there's still a lot of players who are going to be available if they're drafting 5th, if they're drafting 8th, if they're, this is a very, very interesting draft class with a number of very interesting defensemen that they could be drafting here as well.
I see. I mean, I hear that this draft is deep. I'm not very good with the prospects, like who's in there. But I heard that this draft is deep, and I just think that for me, like we've been talking about, the Blues drafting in that middle area has done them well. I mean, you look at a guy like Robert Thomas, and call me crazy, I don't know, Mike, if you remember kind of when the Blues drafted Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas was really never projected, at least in my opinion, he was never projected to be a top line guy. I mean, he was projected to be a good player, but I don't think he was ever projected to be a first line center for this team ever. So right. he's came into something very nice. So it's just about how these organizations kind of develop their talent, because you look at someone like Philip Broberg, for instance, or Dylan Holloway, how the Edmonton Oilers kind of fumbled that bag. Those guys were 2 first rounders. Like, they weren't exactly number 1 overall picks. They just were first overall picks, and they kind of fumbled the bag over there. And we're getting 2 great players out of those guys. So it goes to show you that it just comes down to like development and the chances that these young guys get kind of sometimes.
Justin, you absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. So I went ahead and just pulled up here on my other screen Tankathon's website. It's probably a daily site that I'm going to here right now. Be able to see where that they're drafting here at, or where they're projected to be able to draft here at. Their mock draft is one that I actually have pretty come close to agreeing here with. Albert Smiths here rather. He is projected to go 5th overall here right now to the Blues. He is right now playing top pairing minutes overseas, left side, averaging here around 22 plus minutes here a night. I wouldn't mind having another left pair defenseman, but then you start asking yourself a question of, okay, so where does this fit with Broberg and Lindstein? Don't really know. You have Caleb Malhotra, who is currently playing for the Brantford Bulldogs, Adam Jiricek's teammate here right now. He's a center. He could also end up making a case to go 5th overall, should the Blues end up picking there. Again, where do you place Caleb Malhotra? Because where does Dalibor Dvorsky at 20 years old, where does he end up slotting at here long term? Is he a 1C? Is he a 3C? Like the jury's still out as far as, in my opinion, on where he fits, and maybe he fits better long term on the wing. We don't know. He's 20 years old, but there's a lot of guys who are available who they could be able to easily pick and find themselves with a top 6 winger. They could find themselves with a second line center. They can find themselves with, at very least, a second pairing defenseman. Like, there's a lot of talent that they could be able to have still within anywhere from 5 to 10.
Hey, Guy, can I just touch on one thing before you answer real quick?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get Mike's thoughts. So a good comparison, or I think I'm not going to say good comparison because it makes you sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. But so the comparison that I've made on this show for Dalibor Dvorsky is I think he's going to be a good player, but the type of player that I see him like maybe end up being is a Ryan O'Reilly-esque player, to where maybe he's not putting up the mega like 90, 100-point seasons, but he's getting a consistent good stretch of points each season, maybe in the 50s, 60s, like Ryan O'Reilly, and he becomes a good two-way center for this team. And I think that was a comparison that I drew on this show numerous times with Dalibor Dvorsky. That's just my opinion. That's what I kind of saw him.
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing because I think right now, and when they were talking about Robert Thomas potentially moving, I thought that was one of the most foolish decisions that they possibly could have made. Obviously, depending on what the return is.
Even the return wasn't going to be worth it.
No, because no matter what you were getting, it was going to be a prospect. It was going to be a guy who was coming into the NHL for the first time. It was, whatever that it was going to be, regardless of what it was. Yeah, regardless of what it was going to set this team back at least 3 years.
Yeah,
because you can't replace a Robert Thomas.
I don't think. I'll be honest with you. A couple of things. I got a couple of things. First of all, when it comes to Buffalo, I think that I like Dvorsky. I do. But when that draft came up, I want to ask you, I don't know, I'm guessing you've been following the Blues for a really long time. Am I correct? Or
quite a while, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was born in 68, so I started following the Blues in the early to mid, like 73, 74, old enough to understand the game, 5, 6 years old. So that's when I started following the Blues. So I've been a long time. That draft, because we had the 3 draft picks, I really went, I had 3 different draft books here. I did a draft show. I had them all laid out. And when that pick came up, Dvorsky was not on my radar. There was another player on my radar. When they took that pick, was there somebody else on your radar? I want to know if you were thinking along the same lines I was.
So I was not as surprised with Dvorsky. He was still obviously a first-round talent here for me. He was maybe a smidge further down. Man, you're making me be able to go far back here into my memory here as far as who I potentially have had back then. But, this was absolutely a guy who and again, Justin, I will fully agree. Ryan O'Reilly is a guy or a player type, that I have made several comparisons here to and kind of drew that up here as well. I think that he does have that raw talent, that raw ability that if they can be able to shape and mold and develop it, that he could fit. Again, whether it's going to be, hey, he's a one center or he's a first line center, but he's kind of more of he's better off at second, but he can fill in, obviously, as we've seen here already, in first line center here in a pinch. He's that big game type of a player. He's the guy who rises to the occasion, and that's the type of player who you still want. And again, all the credit, all the kudos here to the drafting department to say, hey, you know what? This is a big game player. And I think we'd be foolish to pass up here on this big game player. 10th overall, it's still yet to be seen again if it's worthwhile drafting him at 10th overall here or not. But so far, so good.
I wanted the player that Buffalo took at number 11, Zach Benson. Now, but for me, the fact that Dvorsky slipped, and I can't remember if he was the 6th ranked or the 7th ranked, that he slipped to 10, told me there were too many question marks. At least in my eyes. Go ahead, Jeff.
For me, no, and we talk, and guys talked about it and Guy's been a staple on this. He hasn't changed his mind on this one. For me, again, it goes back to the organization and the type of development those type of players were going to get. Yes, you could look at a team with Zach Benson on it, but the problem is the Blues and the Buffalo Sabres were in a completely different spot at that point. Like, Buffalo was still struggling. They're still a young team. They still are a young team. They're playing great hockey, some of the best hockey that they played in 14 years. So it's a thing about development, and Zach Benson, I don't think he would have got the same amount of playing time, the same amount of time here as if he went to Buffalo, or as he did when he went to Buffalo. The Blues just didn't have the roster spot for him, I don't think. Like, a set roster spot for him, I should say. Buffalo, they didn't really have a set roster spot for him. Or they did have a set roster spot for him. You know, they're a team they were going through the rebuild. And he got the opportunity to shine there. And I don't know what his ceiling is. I really don't, because I haven't paid attention much to Zach Benson, but I know he's a good player.
Yeah, well, and he definitely is. I had pulled back up his draft class. So the number 11 overall pick went to Vancouver, and that was Tom Willander. That was actually the player who I wanted, because you're talking about a big, mobile, right shot defenseman, and I said this is a guy who's going to end up replacing Colton Parayko here long term. And I thought that was the guy who they logically should have gone here with. But Axel Sandin Pellikka, he was also on my list, a little bit higher. And in my opinion, he dropped here a little bit. But Tom Willander was the guy who I wanted, which, again, he goes next pick. Great. He looks like that he's off to a pretty decent start here so far in a very struggling Vancouver Canucks team. So we'll see what the future holds here for him.
Where was Benson? Benson go 12 or 13?
He went 13. Yep.
13, yeah. I knew it was close. I knew it was really close.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now, go back to the Robert Thomas thing. I think that, in my eyes, I think that was all smoke and mirrors. I think the Robert Thomas thing was, let's talk about Robert Thomas, knowing that we're not going to give him up. But, that's not going to work for us. But what do you think about this play? Right? And that's where the
I think it was just media. I get what you're saying, but I think it was just media. I don't think it's the Blues. I don't think it particularly was the Blues going out there saying, "Oh, we're going to dangle Robert Thomas ahead of you." Maybe that was the case, but I think it was more so just media. I mean, you look at how the Buffalo Sabres trade went, with Colton Parayko, and how Buffalo broke that. Someone in the Buffalo media broke that way too early. So I think it was more so media just trying to add smoke to the fire, because Robert Thomas, he talked about not being approached to waive a no trade or no trade clause or anything like that. So, right. There's no reason for me not to believe Robert Thomas when he says that. I mean, he's not going to go out there and say that if he didn't mean it.
I think the Blues I think if I'm a GM and I'm going, okay, I want to trade this player, but the old salesman technique, show them what they can't afford, so they'll take the next model. And I did. I think they showed him Robert Thomas, figured out that they couldn't afford Robert Thomas, that the price was too steep. But here's a model we got just a little bit lower. That's almost as good that maybe you can afford. And again, Justin's right, because I've talked about this. The media has blown it. Now, this is two separate occasions with the Blues where they've leaked or it's been leaked to the media about trade talks. And instead of the media sitting on their hands and asking the right question, they didn't, and they released it. And I'm sorry, as much as I want to be in the media, if I found out about a trade that involved a player with an NTC, my very first question is going to be, is that player A, know about it, and B, has they waived it yet? Because if if the answer is no to either one of those, or I don't know, then I keep my mouth shut. Because the negativity that can come off it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not worth breaking it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so just be able to circle back your original question or your original point here, just surrounding Robert Thomas. I do think that's, Robert Thomas was, I fully believe, fully involved in trade talks, but it was one of those situations where you said, hey, I got this Lamborghini. Here's the price tag here for it. If you can't afford it, again, like you said, we've got other models, and that's totally fine. But if you want to keep circling back here around to this Lamborghini, let's continue to talk. No, this price tag's not going down. No, I'm not going to offer you discounts. No, I'm not going to offer you financing. No, I'm not going to do, I'm not going to do any of this stuff. If you want this Lambo, you got to pay for it. And that's I think exactly where they were at in trade talks here with Robert Thomas.
Oh, I absolutely agree. We got a question from one of my fans out there, Julie Ladd, great Blues fan, says, what do we need to win or lose?
Who do we need to win or lose? Right now, we need to make sure that Philly wins here tonight, because that's going to be another implication here on the Detroit draft pick. Yeah. But right now, I think that the Blues just need to keep just doing what they're doing. But again, it also depends on, okay, so who do we need to be able to win or lose? What's your end goal?
Yeah.
What's your end goal? Are you trying to get yourself up into the conversation here again for a top 3 pick? Because again, I don't think that that's going to happen. You've already got 2 teams who are eliminated from postseason contention, and you're not catching them here down to the basement. So, in my opinion, it's not really a matter of who do we need to win or lose regarding this pick. It's following along with what's going to be happening with that Detroit pick. That's me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got a question for you. At the beginning of the season, where did you have the Blues in?
Oh, I had them actually top 3. I had them 3rd in the Central Division.
Yep, I did too. I think I did too. I did too.
Me and Justin. Yeah, sorry. Me and Justin did a show. I live in Hawaii, and every year I try and come home September, October for the last couple of years, the beginning of the season. And up at in Warden, Illinois, at Valley Hideaways, we do now it's becoming an annual preview show. And at that show, I'm pretty sure I had the Blues 3rd too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anybody had really these top 3 teams being as good as what they were. Yeah. Now granted, you had a large amount of underwhelming forwards and underwhelming producers here on this team, and a massive byproduct of that was health. This team could not stay healthy to save their lives. And at some point in time in this season, if you remember, I mean, this was basically the St. Louis Thunderbirds. Yeah. This was, when you've got, no offense to Matt Luff, but like when you've got Matt Luff up here playing, something's going on.
Yeah.
So, and it's terribly wrong. And Matt Luff is a very, very good career AHLer, but he was a massive break glass in case of emergency, and we've gone through 3 different panes of glass to break it.
Human gang, same spot. Human gang with that same thing. Look at this season right now. So I look at, talking about draft picks, I look at the Blues. They're going to have at this moment, one of about 4 different draft picks, 5 different draft picks. They're either going to have 1, 2, 5, 6, or 7. And that could change a little bit, right? That could change, up and down a little bit. They could change, and if something happens, here's the thing that boggles my mind. There are an average of 8 games left in the NHL season. 8 games left in the NHL season. How many teams have clinched a playoff spot, and how many teams have been eliminated? Those 2 numbers boggle my mind right now.
That's a wild thing. Yeah.
I can't think of a season where with 8 games left, only 2 teams had clinched a playoff spot and 2 teams were eliminated. Everybody else mathematically still has a chance to either make the playoffs or miss the playoffs.
Well, and that just goes to show you the level of competition that's in the East and the level of underwhelming performances that's been in the West. The fact that the Blues have been right here all season long. Now, granted, again, you can be able to discuss about, well, if they had performed even around 500 or just slightly above 500 in their overtimes, they'd be a lot closer. This could be the same roster, but this Western Conference has just been garbage, just pure and utter garbage.
And I want to disagree with you. I don't think it's been as garbage as you think it is. I think it's the amount of parity in the league that has the teams a lot closer together than people think they are, right? And I say this all the time. When we look at the NHL, we sit there and say, well, this team's great and this team sucks. The problem is we're looking at it through an electron microscope. in all actuality, the difference between the top team in the league, between Colorado and Vancouver, is minuscule. You take one or two players off of Colorado, put them on Vancouver, and put two players on Vancouver on Colorado, they come a lot closer together. It doesn't take much.
Sure. Yeah. And that's absolutely a fair point to be able to look here at. I mean, and again, that's where you have an underwhelming Blues team, that was, again, hit by an injury bug or hit by just underperforming players, what have you. This is where, again, and I think to all of our credit here, then at that point, that we had them projected at third in the Central Division, just how good that this team here could end up being. And the Blues are showing you right now just how good they could be. Now, their goaltenders have also been standing on their head. Thank you, Joe Hofer. But this is absolutely the team I think that a lot of fans were expecting was going to be playing in front of their eyes. Maybe not to some, percentages here of it, because at some point in time they were stealing games. But again, sometimes you need a goaltender to stand on your head. Sometimes you need a Philip Broberg to be able to score that last second goal. Sometimes you need a Jimmy Snuggerud to just, turn your head and say, he did what now?
I think go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go. You go. It's your turn.
No, you go ahead, because I'm going to pivot into different questions here in a minute.
Yeah.
So go ahead and finish what you're talking about.
I'm with I get what you're saying, and I look at this. I was on at the beginning of the season, or before the season started, I was on NHL radio with Mick Kearns and Under Review. He brings me on every now and then.
Sure.
And I had said we had the best tandem in the Central and maybe the third best in the league. And for whatever reason, it's not just goalie play, but it was also the style of defense in front of them.
Yeah.
And what's happened? I think what you're seeing now is what Montgomery always wanted them to play. Mm-hmm. And I know Justin doesn't completely agree with me. Too many guys that were on this team at the beginning of the season, because of what happened in the last game of last season, fell into that defensive mindset. And it showed that this team, instead of being this offensive juggernaut that they could and should have been, played defensively almost every single game. And when they played defensively, they got shots, but they got bad shots and they lost. And that's what I think affected this team. And by injuries or letting older players go, and that they now have more of an offensive style mindness, and you're seeing it. You're seeing guys, especially, I don't like to say it's as much the forecheck, but when they lose the puck in the offensive zone, they're not immediately falling back. They're staying, trying to get that puck. Beginning of the season, as soon as the puck was on the other guy's stick, everybody fell back. And that, you're just giving free opportunities to the other team if you're doing that. That's an offensive mindset. An offensive mindset is, I'm going to stay here until I know he's got the puck.
Yeah. Well, and I also don't think that you can discount the level of frustration that was going through the locker room. And Jim Montgomery has come out and said, earlier in the season when they were hitting those rough losing patches, the team was constantly, and people saw it here on the telecast. They were holding their heads. They everybody was hung, not hung over, but the body language here from all of them. And you have to believe that, it was absolutely just filling that locker room. And Jim Montgomery said, hey, I was frustrated, and at times then you want to say, you know what, screw, like I'm done. I'm so mad here at this. I don't even know what to do because I'm trying to do it. And I think you saw that here as a byproduct of him mixing up those lines here. He didn't give a single second for lines with a gel in the slightest. He was just trying to do anything he possibly could to be able to make anything work, show any sign of life. And if something was failing, he was making an adjustment by the third period.
Yeah.
And so that's where, again, I think the frustration paid a massive portion here of this team. And right now, when you are starting to string a couple of wins here together, suddenly these guys are looking a lot better. We just have to hope that they don't need a 2-week long break here in the middle of every single season, a 3-week long break or what have you, for them to turn things around. They need to start doing a smidge earlier.
I still feel like the way that Game 7 ended, that didn't leave a lot of psyches. right?
No.
And that didn't leave a lot. And the psyches that it didn't leave were the psyches that it had to leave. Like, I don't think it left Shen. I don't think it left Falk. I don't think it left Pareko. I don't think it completely left Thomas. Guys like that, the guys that really needed to understand what an offensive system meant and to get away from the defensive system that they'd had for a decade, right?
Yep.
You go back to when was the last time this team, the St. Louis Blues, had an offensive coach other than Montgomery? I think you got to go all the way back to Quinville.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
because obviously, I mean, Hitchcock here was obviously very defensive minded. You had Craig Berube, who was an interesting mixture. He was absolutely a defensive first, but he wanted your forwards to be your offensive forwards. Like, he wanted you to be able to drive that play, hear something fierce. But when things would go wrong, he definitely defers back to team defense. So it's not quite a 50-50, but it's pretty close to a 50-50 between which one he favors more.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I am so glad, because I'm going to throw a question at you. And if you get mad at me, you get mad at me. It's not no, because this question is not aimed at you, but it's aimed generally.
Sure.
Why does the media hate Jordan Kyrou? And I'm saying this because
good question.
I've heard it directly. I've been in front of a couple of media members, and I've heard the way they've talked. I will not say who they are, not live. If you want to know off camera, I will.
Sure.
I've heard it. And then I also heard it from Randy. And I will say this because this is on video. This isn't like a private conversation.
Sure.
But Randy Character and Bernie Malayzik jumped over Kyrou. They did the morning after. They asked about, does Kyrou care about getting benched? And I wanted, God, I wish I could go on, and I wanted to blow up at everything that he said. The media in St. Louis hates Jordan Kyrou. I think I know. I want to know what your thought process is, and then I'll tell you what I think it is.
Sure. So my personal 2 cents, I mean, I can be able to give you my own personal view here of Jordan Kyrou, but I can also give you like my 2 cents here on that. Like, I don't think that you're far off. I don't think that you're far off here with it. I think that there's a lot of pressure surrounding a player like Jordan Kyrou because we have seen what the talent level here is for a Jordan Kyrou. And for this team here right now, the way that they have been underperforming, the way that they have been sometimes lacking by 1 goal, 2 goals. Okay, well, they just need a spark. They need something. Okay, well, this is what Jordan Kyrou is paid to do. And I think this is where the frustration comes in, is because Jordan Kyrou played very well. I mean, we saw him season after season, and he was this massive defensive liability. At some point, I mean, if social media were a thing, I think that you would say the same thing here at times, maybe not to quite the same extent, but you'd say the same thing about the lack of interest in playing team defense from a Brett Hull. So, if social media were a thing back then, holy smokes, I don't want to know, would they have been willing to run Brett Hull here out of St. Louis just because of the lack of interest in playing defense? But I personally, I don't mind Jordan Kyrou. I really like his offensive upside. I like what he has in his toolkit. I think right now, and you especially saw this last night here in overtime, when Trevor Moore was cutting through the wing and he's cutting closer to it, you just see Jordan Kyrou just gliding along. He wasn't doing anything. Now, granted, you got to be able to wait. Okay, so what's the other 2 guys going to do here on the ice? What's my goalie going to do? Because I need to be ready to be able to make a quick offensive jump here towards the other side. So part of me gets that, but he also wasn't doing a lot to be able to engage here defensively. And that's where a lot of people are very frustrated in this city, because they love their defense. If you're not playing defensively, you're not bringing your hard hat and your work pail here to work, you're a little bit more heavier scrutinized. So I think a lot of people have said, okay, well, the guy got paid. Now he doesn't care. So where's the mutual respect? Where's the return on our investment? And I think that's where the frustration lies. Is it properly warranted? No, I don't think so. I mean, there's absolutely criticism that should be about it. You're paying him more than $8 million a season for what? So there's a little bit more of that, but and that's where I think that they say, hey, we don't necessarily want to run him out of town, but in my opinion, a change of scenery is absolutely warranted. I was of the notion that it made all the sense in the world to at least explore an option for a Jordan Kyrou to say Washington or Seattle, because they have other players who also need a change of scenery. You know, you're looking at a Matty Berniers, you're looking at a Connor McMichael, you're looking at some of these other guys who are good foundational pieces to their individual teams, but in return, if you're getting a Jordan Kyrou who can be able to put up very easily 40 goals here on a season, sorry, but Seattle's going to be, in my opinion, should be willing to be able to at least entertain a conversation for a Matty Berniers when you're talking about a guy who should be able to very easily play second line center here on this team.
Yeah. I want to let Justin respond first, and then I'll go with how I feel
on the tangent.
Hopefully question.
Yeah, I mean, if that was going to be one of my questions, was going to be about what was your thoughts on Jordan Kyrou. You kind of answered it already. Jordan Kyrou is a guy that I do think gets a lot of unwarranted hate. I do understand why people are frustrated with him sometimes, and I've said this, and Guy can even be accustomed to this. I said that at the end of the day, I love Jordan Kyrou. I love the pieces that he brings to his game as well. And, when he plays on his game and he's doing what he needs to do, but I think exploring an option of a change of scenery could be good for the Blues as for the future and for Jordan Kyrou individually as a player. Mm-hmm. So, although I love Jordan Kyrou and that wants to cloud my judgment a little bit, I want to be fair, and I want to say that if you don't get rid of Jordan Kyrou and you don't you don't get him to a different change of scenery and you bring in somebody else, how is that going to fare for the future? Is Jordan Kyrou going to still find these struggles? I think the fans that are, just don't like Jordan Kyrou are just not going to like him just because he's Jordan Kyrou. So I don't really take that into consideration, but you do got to ask yourself, if he doesn't get a change of scenery, is he going to be beneficial for this Blues team for the future? And the guy that I was leaning towards was, there was a few trades that I had for, when I did the trade deadline stuff, because we talked about some trades, and there was two guys, and the one is not a possibility, but it was if the Blues and the Stars came together and they made some sort of a superstar superstar thing where Jason Robertson can't get signed in Dallas for some reason, and they get Jordan Kyrou in return, and you obviously have to sweeten that deal a little bit. But I feel like that would be a good, it would be worth it. Jordan Kyrou will get a change of scenery. Obviously, you're trading in division, so that kind of sucks a little bit. But you're getting a good player. You're getting a solid player in return for in Robertson, and Robertson can slot right in and possibly play on that first line with Robert Thomas and Jimmy Snuggerud. There you go. I mean, what a line that would be, huh? I mean, I love Dylan Holloway, and Dylan Holloway's playing fantastic with those two guys up there. But you think about it, Holloway can really be put anywhere in this lineup, and he's going to show up because he's a blue-collar worker. We've all seen it. We all know it. But that was another guy, and then the other guy was Andrei Svechnikov from Carolina. Okay. I think Carolina is a team that I was very disappointed with the moves that they didn't make at the deadline, which they didn't make any. So I don't know what that team is doing over there. They needed to make some moves to shore up that team a little bit more, because they come out of the gate firing in the first two rounds, and then they just run out of gas in the East final usually. So I was disappointed with that, but I thought Svechnikov or Rantanen was a guy that I could see possibly being, a piece being, in return for Jordan Kyrou. But yeah, that's just me.
Guy, I obviously want you to be able to get here to your point. Justin, I'll give you even one more that I had discussed on a separate podcast. Jordan Kyrou in the offseason, or maybe even just, next trade deadline, as a package deal. I mean, you would need a couple of prospects or whatever to be able to get this, but I think Jordan Kyrou going to Ottawa in exchange for Brady, I think could be very, very realistic. I don't think that would be something like an EA Sports type of a trade. I think the Blues would absolutely have the quality of players that Ottawa could be interested in. Now, whether Ottawa would be interested in moving him whether Ottawa, whether he wants to sign it. Like, there's so many other variables that go into this. So many other variables. But
I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one. It is very realistic, but the thing is for me is I know you'd have to package some prospects in there. My issue with it would be how much is Ottawa gonna ask for? I mean, if you're gonna ask, like, I would be fine with getting, being, the two major pieces in that trade being a Kyrou and for the Brady, and then, you throw in a prospect or two or whatever. But it depends on the prospect that you're wanting to throw in. Are you talking about, obviously you're not going to, if Ottawa's asking for like Jimmy Snuggerud, you're not going to give him Jimmy Snuggerud. I mean, no. It's all about the return, or it's all about what the asking price would be from the Ottawa Senators, because it is an interesting prospect. So I think the three, the three players that I could see, I think we just discussed, and I think we nailed it. I think you nailed the third one on the head there. Tkachuk, I know Tkachuk's a fan favorite, and everybody wants him here in St. Louis. He's a great player. He definitely get the job done. But, Svechnikov, Brady, or Rantanen, I think either one of those three could be a great return for Jordan Kyrou.
First of all, I got 2 points now. Brady is not coming here. Brady, I know he would. I've actually talked to Brady, and I know he would. The problem is you mentioned that Robert Thomas was a Ferrari. Brady Tkachuk is a Dino.
Yes.
A Lamborghini. Brady Tkachuk is a Dino. And they know they have a Dino. And if you're into cars, Dinos are $15, $20 million cars. They're very rare. They're hard to get a hold of. And when they come to auction, they're going for, the highest price. You would have to pay way too much to get that Dino. And coming back to Kyrou, my thought process with Kyrou is the reason that Kyrou is so hated in St. Louis, it's twofold. First is Kyrou is not a media darling. You ever look at after games, he doesn't give you a sound quip. He's very reserved. I think that's his style. I think he is a reserved player. I think that he's never really been out in front of the media. And because of that, the media, we've seen this consistently, talks down on a player. The second part being Berube got Kyrou when Kyrou was young and didn't understand what he had and tried to turn what he does to all young players, turn him into a two-way forward, and that's not what he is, and he was never going to be that. I remember one game, Kyrou had 2 goals and an assist, was the number one star, and when Berube got asked, his response was, yeah, but he coughed the puck up in the second period. Yep. That right there is exactly why people don't like Kyrou. And while I think a change of scenery could do him good, I think a change of media attitude could also do him good. He's being pointed at as one of the guys that is playing down this season, but he's not it. Thomas we have no one within 3 goals of 20 with 8 games to go. We might not have a 20-goal player this week. Jim Thomas brought that up, right? Yep. A lot of guys, Neighbors, Thomas, Buchnevich, Holloway.
Don't get me started on Buchnevich.
but all those guys are playing below. They're not playing as offensively as they were last season.
Correct.
Yet the guy getting all the blame for it is Kyrou. And that's where, I think people just need to back off a little bit and allow the guy to be who he is.
Yep.
And if you do, he's going to score.
The media has never. The media. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, yeah, sure, you want the media to be a little different, but you mean that it's a smoke dream. Okay, it's not going to happen. The media's been the same for I don't know how long. The media still talks about how Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas. Everybody loves Robert Thomas, but everybody talks about how Robert Thomas and his issues is his attitude. When something doesn't go his way, he's hanging his head. He's looking up to the rafters. People talk about it. Things are going to happen. I think things are going to be honed in on. And yes, I do think that he gets unwarranted hate. I 100% believe that. But we're not going to get a change of scenery from the media. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened in years, and it will not happen. So, I think it's just like the same with the coach. That's why I get your point about the whole when Berube was here and everything like that. Berube's been gone. Berube's been gone for years, and this is, again, it still lingers there. I get it, but Kairu's got to be a player also that you have to hold accountability sometimes. It's not just the media. It's not just the coaches. Kairu's got to step up and play his game. Robert Thomas, I'm sure he hears he has a bad attitude and this and that. But Robert Thomas, he shows up. He shows up on most nights. So you got to overcome it sometimes. It's not always, and I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm being a Jordan Kyrou hater, but I'm not. But you have to overcome some things, and it's not just always somebody else's fault.
And that's where a change of scenery is a wonderful thing that can happen. That it happens to a lot of players. It just does. And sometimes, the city and the team that you're drafted to, the organization, it's just not a great fit. It's just not, and you have to be able to be willing to move on. And it just is the nature of the game. It just is.
Blues fan forced Brett Hull out, and he got 2 cups because of it.
I had one question, Mike. I know that we're running short on time here, but
we got less than 4 minutes. Make it quick.
Okay. My last question had to do with what do you see happening with Jordan Bennington? So we're gonna go to another Jordan because I'm interested to see your thoughts on Jordan Bennington because I've been under the impression that this is Hofer's the future, and I think you need to start pivoting towards that direction.
So this is I was actually just texting a couple of guys here about this here earlier. So Jordan Bennington is one of the most interesting, in a very interesting position, because not just what he means here to this city, not just what he means here to this team, but you don't have another player who's ready to come in and play a 1B or even just a general backup goaltending right now in this organization. You just don't. All the respect in the world here to Will Cranley, to Vadim Zarenko, who are playing down here in the minors. They're not ready. They're just not. And so Jordan Bennington seems like he's a guy who is more than happy with being here and supporting and playing his heart out here for the city, for the BlueNote, and God love him. But if he wants to move, I think the organization is going to do right by him and say, okay, let's explore a trade. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it's necessarily a matter of if the Blues want to move him, because I firmly believe that there's been conversations before here in the past about moving him. It's about doing right by the player. This is your goaltender who won you your first and only Stanley Cup, and not just won it, but was lights out, daggers playing this. So I think they want to just do right by him.
Just quickly, just a quick fire off. Guys in favor of having a veteran presence back there. He was wanting like a Jonathan Quick back there. My pitch for Jordan Bennington was, if you were to get a trade for him, I said maybe go out there and try to maybe look at someone like Joseph Wall coming back in return for Jordan Bennington.
I don't mind that because, again, my only hesitancy surrounding that is, are these guys able and capable to play in the event that Joel Hofer goes down? And not just goes down, but goes down for an extended period of time. Yeah. Because that's a whole other rabbit trail. But Jordan Bennington is at the very least, I think, capable of playing. Now, is he worth playing capable well is a different discussion. Because right now, statistically speaking, he's not playing well. We see a different story sometimes here on the ice, and I think that he's been playing a lot better here post-Olympic break. But before that, he was, bottom 5 in the league. And so that's where it's really, really difficult to say, do the Blues need to move on from Jordan Bennington here or not?
I know we only got like a minute or two with you left. So I'm going to answer that real quick and say, I don't think the numbers match what we saw on the ice. He had some bad plays, but I think that the defense around the way the team was playing, the lack of offense, created a lot of what happened with
Yes.
both goalies, because for a long time, both goalies had the exact same numbers.
Yes.
Right. Yet one was getting blame and the other wasn't. And my last question before you walk away, because I know you got to leave us. Who's the next Blues captain and why?
Oh man, you're gonna make. So, who do I want, or who do I think is going to be the next captain? So,
give me both.
You can answer both.
Those are two different
You can
things.
answer both.
I think it's going to be Robert Thomas. I think it's going to be Robert Thomas. I think he plays that 1C position very, very well. I think he leads by example. He's just not that in-your-face type of player like a lot of people are seeing here in a Jake Neighbors. Jake Neighbors, I think, fits the core a little bit more, just simply like due to his age, due to his play style, due to everything that he is a Blue through and through. When I was with the Hockey Writers, I said that this is an organizational pillar for this team moving forward. This is whenever he got demoted back here to the Edmonton Oil Kings, and I didn't know how right I was going to be here with that like massive organizational pillar here for this team. So if Robert Thomas was not still around, I mean, hands down, unanimous, it's Jake Neighbors. But Robert Thomas has been here. He's obviously won the cup here. He's done everything here that he needs to be able to do to prove himself that he needs to be the next captain. Jake Neighbors is making a very, very strong case here for it. But, and I'll say this here, last little thing. I think you go into next season without a captain. I just do. Don't
That's
rush
what
it.
I was saying.
Don't rush it. You don't need to. Let the team, let the play, let everything else just dictate and decide who you want to be able to be. Because if Robert Thomas says, hey, you know what? Jake Neighbors makes a heck of a better captain here than I do. Maybe that's just what happens. Maybe that happens in the offseason. Who knows? Yeah. But I would be all in favor of just throwing out a couple of different A's and you let that C just emerge.
Yeah. I went with Robert Thomas. I went with Robert Thomas as the captain. I have Parayko be your primary assistant. I had Broberg be your assistant captain for your away games, and I'd have Jake Neighbors be your assistant captain for the home games. And you start. That's what I would do.
I'm on board with that. I'm absolutely on board with that. Well, I know you got to go, Mike. I want to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you, what's up. And I want to ask, are you willing to come on again, especially as we get closer to the draft or something, and do another show?
Well, first of all, I am always happy to hop on here with you guys. Like this is a great time. I've caught your guys' show here a couple of different times and really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, with how busy that I've been, I catch bits and pieces here of it. But I love what you guys do. So yes, absolutely, we need to be able to get together.
We're the only guys that break down a game as we see it, unfiltered. We are the only ones out there doing that. And
there you go.
That's what makes us unique. But we also do this style of show too. We try and do this once or twice a week because this gives everybody a chance to talk and hear their thought processes.
Yep. Absolutely. So, and then to answer your other question again. So, STL Sports Central, you can find my coverage and everybody else here, a part of this awesome team that's just covering everything surrounding St. Louis sports. If you are looking over here at Substack, if you're trying to support local and independent writing, that's what I've got going over there, covering the Blues prospects here right now. I've got a special here I think I'm going to be rolling out here in the next couple of days where it's a discount here on the annual membership. Even if you just want to support here, the annual, it's $50 for the year, and it just goes here towards me. It goes towards the effort here that, of the research and the tools here and whatnot to be able to, again, just support independent writing. Follow me here on Twitter. Follow me. I'm trying to be able to go out here to the other platforms. It's not always easy to be able to post on Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. That's a full-time job just in and of itself. So, I'm trying my best to be able to get out to the other different platforms, but Twitter is where you're going to find me here, put 100% of my stuff. The other ones, it may get anywhere from 80, 75, 50% here of my stuff.
Well, Mike, it was great having you. Please put out to the other guys at STL Sports Central. You can give them my contact information. I am more than welcome to bring any of them on. They are always, you guys, I love bringing media on. I love getting that thought process and getting that talk. And or my anti-media out there, in my media out there. But it's fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. Hopefully we'll bring you on here in a couple of weeks as we get closer to the playoffs and what's happening with the Blues, and we'll just keep you in mind and try and bring you on as often as we can.
That sounds great, guy. Justin here. It was also a pleasure. Great meeting you guys, and look forward to chatting next time.
Okay, thanks,
Great
Mike.
meeting you, Mike. Thanks for joining, Mike.
We'll see you.
Well, thank you. That was Mike Myers from STL Sports Central. Justin, we're at an hour. Do you want to stay on a little longer and talk, or do you want to end it? It's up to you, my friend.
I mean, if you have anything that you're wanting to kick around and something that we may not have gotten to that we're kind of wanting to discuss.
No, I think I want to talk a little bit more about what Mike said about McKenna being the guy. I'm sorry, I just don't think McKenna fits this team. And maybe I'm an idiot, and I get that. But I look at, and just, 3 examples right off my head. You look at McDavid, you look at Bedard, and you look at Celebrini. When those guys went to those teams, well, Bedard's an interesting one. I'll get to that in a second. But when McDavid and Celebrini went to their teams, they were it. They were the best guy on that team coming out of the draft at 18 years old. They were by far the best guy on that team. Now, you look at Bedard. When Bedard goes to Chicago, Chicago tries to bring in these veterans to help him out, and it doesn't work because it took away from who Bedard wanted to be. I'm concerned that bringing McKenna into this team would do that to him. Like you talk about Benson not getting the opportunity here, or even Tage Thompson getting the opportunity in St. Louis because of what we had. Could it be almost the opposite, that because you bring McKinnon in, you give him too much opportunity and it messes up what you already have going? I mean, what do you?
Well, no, but I don't think that, because, well, first off, we talked about this before, because if that was the case, this Blues team would be going through rebuild. You would be looking at a team without Robert Thomas, probably without Kyrou, possibly. You're adding a talented guy in McKenna to this team that we already have publicly said numerous times this team is not far off. So if you're adding Gavin McKenna to this team, there's no reason in my mind to think that they're going to be worse off for it. I don't think that at all. I think you are kind of off with Gavin McKenna not being, a fit for this team. I mean, we don't know what we're getting with Gavin McKenna. He's struggled in certain leagues. He's shined in others. It's going to take time. The kid's 18 years old. Obviously, you're talking about, McDavid, Celebrini. Those guys are like the upper echelon. And it's you don't get guys like that every single year in the draft. Yeah, you get first overall picks, but like those types of guys come every once in a while. It's not some type of thing where you see a Celebrini every first round, or first overall pick. It just doesn't happen that way. And again, you look at some of the drafts over the years and how many teams have had like bust and all that, and like drafted players that just haven't worked out. It's just, for me, I think it's more so how the organization develops these guys. And I think with the way that they developed Dvorsky, Dvorsky's developing into something nice, Stenberg's developing into something nice. I have trust in the Blues organization to come in and get a Gavin, if they were to get a Gavin McKenna. Again, I say if, because let's be honest, I've already talked about the draft. I'm not changing my opinion on the draft. The Blues are not getting the first overall pick. So the whole Gavin McKenna thing is just a hearsay, she said kind of thing. It's not going to happen. So, it's just a thought process that we could have. I mean, by some miracle, it could happen, but for me, it's not going to happen.
Let's say the Rangers get number 2, right? And the Vancouver, basically, they're set on McKenna. Rangers at 2, would you be willing to trade the 5th pick and the 29th to 32nd pick, whatever that Colorado pick is, for the number 2 spot? And do you think the Rangers would do that?
See, the Rangers are interesting because honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. The Rangers have no freaking like fear about trading. Oh no, that's Tampa Bay. Sorry, Tampa Bay is usually the team that doesn't have any issue trading picks. The Rangers are interesting because the Rangers are going through a rebuild. If I had the answers of what Chris Drury was doing over there, I would tell you 100%. But Chris Drury, I think, is just purposely messing up the Rangers, and I feel bad for Rangers fans. Honestly, I don't think the Rangers do take it because I just, for me, I want to say that they would, but I don't know if they would, to be honest, because I just think that they just don't know what they want. They don't know what direction they want to go in. Their prospect pools, and if you look at their drafts over the couple of years, they've been terrible at drafting. I mean, they are very, very bad at drafting.
That's why I think if the Rangers got 2, there is a chance the Blues would be able to trade 5 and the Colorado pick to get 2 and then take Stenberg, or maybe get into 3 or 4 and take the guy that they want if they know he's on somebody else's board, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the Blues are going to have 5. I think they're going to end up with somewhere between 5 and 10. That's where I think they're going to end up, somewhere between 5 and 10.
Yeah, I think they're going to be high. Like I said, I'm sorry. I know that a lot of people don't like that opinion, and the opinion that I have that the draft is a little fishy. But I'm sorry. I mean, over the years, it's just been a proven thing that I've just watched over the last couple of years, and that's why I said to Mike, I said, I'm sorry, I'm just not optimistic. If the Blues had the same amount of chance that the Vancouver Canucks have this year, like what's their percentage right now of winning the first overall pick?
Yeah.
Like 40%, 50,
no, 25.
25. So even at those odds, if the Blues had that, I still don't think the Blues would win it. I don't.
The highest percentage is the last team in the league, and they get at 25 point something, and then it breaks down. The Blues would be at 5th, would be somewhere around 9%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Well, and that's what I'm saying.
But I know it's somewhere in there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying if the Blues were the last team in the league, like Vancouver is, and they had the 25%, I'm still going to sit here and tell you that the Blues aren't winning the draft lottery. I'm sorry. It just wouldn't happen. So I know that a lot. That's why I'm not on the tank wagon, and I've never been on the tank wagon because I think it's stupid to tank. Because first of all, these guys are doing their job. We see it on the ice that the Blues are clearly not tanking. They're clearly, trying their best to get into the playoffs. But that's why I don't think that tanking is a logical decision because I think the draft is fishy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but I do. So I think the first overall pick, obviously you're thinking that it's going to be Vancouver. And then by some miracle, it's going to be like, the Winnipeg Jets are going to jump from like 3rd to 1st somehow or some shit like that.
Currently, I'm looking at the odds, right? Currently, the 32nd team has a 25.5 odds.
Mm-hmm.
The Blues, if they picked it 5th, which would be meaning they were in 28th position, would have an 8.5% chance of picking at 5, or picking number 1. They'd have an 8.8% chance of picking at number 2. And this is something that's really weird. They only have a 24% chance of picking in their spot. They have a 44% chance of picking one spot down, meaning that a team below them gets a pick higher than them. That's crazy.
And guy, let me just throw this out there. Imagine we get the draft day. And I don't know where this team is in the standings. I know they're a little lower. They dropped off. Obviously, they're still young and they're still rebuilding. Imagine there's one team that I'm thinking about right now off the top of my head, and there's one team off the top of my head right now that I'm thinking of, and I don't know if you're on the same level as me. I'll let you guess before I tell you this team. But Could you imagine if this team jumps and wins the draft lottery again?
Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago. Could you
Actually-
imagine if Chicago wins the draft lottery again? I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be freaking surprised, guy. I wouldn't. I would not be surprised.
It's possible. Honestly, I see the Rangers winning it. Storied franchise. The problem with the Rangers winning it, they are nowhere near. They're nowhere near good enough. Like if they brought McKenna in, McKenna would have a horrible first season because they have nobody with them. Jason McMillan agrees with you. The draft is rigged. The Rangers are getting number one. They need it more than anything.
But see, I wouldn't be so sure because this kind of all started. Am I lagging right now? What's happening? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. No, I was saying that I wouldn't be so sure about the Rangers. I think the Rangers do need that upper echelon of pick, but I wouldn't be so sure because the reason that my whole ideology with the draft lottery comes to that idea for me starts with the Rangers. The Rangers should have got Sidney Crosby, and they didn't. They didn't get Sidney Crosby. The Penguins got Sidney Crosby. So I wouldn't be so sure. I think the Rangers do need it, but I'm telling you right now, I put that into the universe and watch it somehow miraculously happen to where Chicago is in the top 3 at least of the draft lottery. Watch.
Well, I mean, right now they're in that third spot, aren't they?
Yeah. I actually don't know. I actually don't know where they're, but I kid you not, guy.
I'll tell you in a second. Give me just 30 seconds to bring it up.
I kid you not, guy. If we get to the draft and the Chicago Blackhawks jump into first spot, I want you to come on this show and I want you to tell me that, by God, you put that into the universe and it actually happened. If that actually happens.
Here we go. 32nd is Vancouver. 31st, see, I thought the Rangers were because they are eliminated, but there's actually 2 teams that are still in the playoff hunt that have less points than the Rangers and are not eliminated. The Blackhawks and the Flames are the next 2 teams. And then you have the Rangers at 4, the Blues at 5. Of those 4 teams, I see the Rangers winning the draft lottery. I really do. I don't see Calgary winning it.
And the Flames should, and the Flames are a team that could really use the draft lottery. If I'm honest, the Flames are a team that could use it because they're a team that's gutted too.
Yeah. So there's some things there. Roger says Detroit could keep dropping and may that may be big somehow move up in the draft. If Detroit, who right now, I don't think Detroit's in a playoff spot. I think they're just missing it. Let me pull the wild card. I have the league standings up. So Detroit is 2 points out of a playoff spot, tied with the Ottawa Senators at 581 points percentage. The Blue Jackets, who have played, and they have a game in hand on the Blue Jackets, right? Mm-hmm. So Detroit, well, what's hurting Detroit is they're tied with Ottawa. Ottawa has the better regulation win. So that could knock them out. But, and again, you're looking at possibly the 17th or 16th or 15th pick if they miss the draft. So you're looking at possibly right now the 5th, the 16th, or the 17th, the 5th, the 17th, and the 29th pick at a bare minimum. That is better than what we had 3 years ago when we had the 3 draft round picks. And it's better than the year we got Perron and Lars Eller, and I forget who the other guy was, Ian Cole, with 3 picks. We're in a good spot. This is why I don't mess with that Detroit pick. This is why when I bring up trading, that I don't mess with the Detroit pick, that I say trade your spot and the Avalanche spot to get up into 2 or 3, and then take that Detroit spot, which is in your wheelhouse anyways, and get the player that you want there.
Well, speaking of Detroit, Patrick Kane just made it 3-1 for the Detroit Red Wings against the Philadelphia Flyers. So,
yeah, I think we needed the Flyers to win that one. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't see the prospect of tanking just because of the fishiness of the draft. And I do agree with you that the Rangers are a team that need it, but the Rangers are going to go through a struggle because, like I said, if they get that pick, that's all fine and dandy, but the Rangers are still years upon years upon years of competing because they have gutted their team. I mean, they have, obviously they have Lafreniere, they have Adam Fox, but I don't know if Adam Fox is going to be on this team. And if he's gone, then they're definitely going to be struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually gets the pick. But like I said, guy, I would not be surprised if it comes draft day and the Chicago Blackhawks somehow win the draft lottery. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, Detroit is up 2-1 on Philly. We'll go over the scoreboard.
3-1. They just scored.
Okay.
Patrick Kane just
scored. I'm going to do a refresh, and this is the scoreboard that I have from the NHL, so it could not be updated, but I just did a refresh. Hurricanes are up 5-1 on the Blue Jackets with 5:46 to go in the third. Senators are up 2-1 on the Sabres with 8:27 to go in the third. The Lightning are up 4-2 with 12:14 to go in the third. The Panthers are up 2-1 on the Bruins with 9:19 to go in the third. In a game that I'm watching, the Rangers just scored. They are now actually they just tied it up 2-2 with 6 minutes or 5:52 to go in the third. They just tied it up as we were talking. Red Wings are up 3-1 on the Flyers with 9:53 to go. At the end of 2, Devils are up 4-2 on the Caps, and the Stars are blanking the Jets 3-0. The Jets are another team that I could see jumping and getting into the number 1 spot. They are a team that I could see jumping. Wild are up 3-2 on the Canucks with 12:25 to go in the second. And 14:15 to the first, the Oilers and Blackhawks are scoreless. Games later tonight, Utah is in Seattle, Calgary is in Vegas, and the Maple Leafs face off against the Los Angeles Kings, which is Kopitar's thank you night. So they're doing a big old deal for Kopitar there. I think it's Kopitar. He's the one that's leaving, right?
Yeah, Kopitar's retiring after this year.
Detroit could keep dropping, and May that okay, we already talked about that. The other thing, there was something else that he brought up, and I wanted to talk about it, and now I can't remember what it was. I guess I got to think about it here for a second. I don't know. It's blanking on me. Other than that, I guess in an hour and a half, it's a good show tonight, man.
Yeah, for sure. It was fun having Mike on. I am excited to hopefully have him on again. He said he'll be back. He'll try to come back in a couple weeks for the draft. And I think it'd be cool to have him on, get a little bit more insight from him, and see what he's thinking. Finally, when we finally know where the Blues are going to actually be placed at. So it should be interesting.
Yep. Stay on after we end the show so I can explain to you how to get on the show when we do these type of shows, because I can't use the studio.
Right? Oh, wow. Is John Gibson hurt? Yeah. I'm
Say
listening.
Again?
I just was watching. The Flyers scored, but it looked like John Gibson might be hurt. I don't know. Oh, no. Maybe not.
Okay. Well, I have but one question to ask you, Dustin. How do we end the show?
I think we got to ask, where are the girls? Where are they at?
What are you wearing?
A Canadian tuxedo. And I'm a hockey player. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
So I want to know, STL Blues fan, are you ready for the question? Fans of the Blue Note Fan Report, are you ready for the question? Justin, my friend, my buddy, my pal, are you ready for the question?
I'm ready for the question.
Who's late to dinner?
Where are the boys? Where are they at?
Hawaii Blues fan, we're bleeding blue with you. Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues!
This is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, for my infamous co-host, and I say that jokingly and laughingly, Justin Eagle Eye Scott, saying aloha, mahalo, and thank you for watching the Blue Note Fan Report. Much thank you to our special guest, Mike Myers from STL Sports Central, for coming on and talking about the Blues playoff prospects and draft prospects. We had a great time with him. Catch us tomorrow at, 8 p.m. or 7:30. Have I got that right? Or 9:30?
Well,
your time.
I have no idea, but it won't matter because I will not be here. I will be at SmackDown tomorrow night. So, Guy is handling this solo for tomorrow. So, just a heads up. So as you know, if anybody is a wrestling fan and they're going to wrestling in the St. Louis area, I will be there. If you see me, say what's up. If I see you, I'll say what's up. So,
hi to Justin at SmackDown. This is Guy and Justin saying aloha, mahalo. And we'll catch you all on the next Blue Note Fan Report. Just remember that I am bleeding blue with you.
And as always, let's go Blues.
See you tomorrow.